Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Around the Outside, the American Formula One podcast. This is Ian Shea,
And Mike DuPont.
your hosts for this evening's podcast, and we are going to be beginning a three-part summer special with a fourth part thrown in at the end. We're going to go over Spa today. And then the other two parts are the two races that we were not able to record. And then the final part, the fourth part of our three-part special, will be a sum up of the season so far. Mike, I'm looking forward to this summer break with you, man.
Yeah, we got a lot of catching up to do. A lot of fun episodes to release to all y'all. And I'm sure we'll get into some predictions for how we think the rest of the year is going to go as well.
I just ate McDonald's for dinner. If I stop talking and or breathing during this episode, just know that I've died because, Mike, I felt like trash. Ordering it, I knew I was going to feel like absolute trash. I just want to be right out the gate with that. But so good every time.
Has that effect on people.
It's so good. Every time I eat it, I hate that I'm eating it, but I love that I'm eating it.
Yeah. I think that I forget his name. Whoever has the Nathan's hot dog eating record. Is it Joey
Hot Dog? Chestnut.
Yeah.
I call him Joey Hot Dog.
Chestnut?
Yeah, it's Chestnut.
I know he broke the record for like the most Big Macs eaten within like a 30-minute period or something
30
like that.
Oh.
He ate like 40 of them or something crazy like that.
I'd be dead after right now. I honestly am running on I don't know what, because I couldn't even do 40 Big Macs. I just did like a couple McChickens, dude. Maybe some large fries. Maybe a couple McDoubles.
McChickens are class.
It's perfect. Well, dude, but by the way, the dollar menu, when did that stop becoming a thing? And also, there's no tellers. It's upsetting. I looked at the prices for a McChicken thinking it was going to be $1. Three. Oh, okay. I mean, this is what we're complaining about, though, so life is amazing. I'm not going to complain too much in retrospect.
Yeah. You'd think if they didn't have tellers, the price of them would be less, right? Less people to pay.
Less people to pay, but more, I don't know. Maybe the Hamburglers got Princess Peach or something, and they need ransom money.
Yeah, there's a McChicken shortage.
Spa. Well, you want to talk about Spa? Do you want to talk about the good old sprint weekend that was done at Spa?
Yeah, definitely a good weekend. I think little. Yeah, it was all right. Unfortunate to see McLaren kind of take a step back during the race, but definitely had some fireworks going off for Oscar in the sprint, and some drama going into turn one for the race. Too bad Danny Rick couldn't do repeat his Hungary performance, but hopefully there's
he did in a way.
More to come.
In a way, he did. With what was occurred during the sprint race, he technically was in regular points, not sprint mode points.
But he scored 0 points, and his teammates scored points at the end of the day.
One. He scored one.
That's what the history is good to say.
I think just the 1 point difference is enough to throw Danny saying he didn't. I think he had a spectacular weekend. It was a wet weekend at Spa. Let's not forget that one. And
when is it not a little wet
at that track nowadays?
You're at the Spa. You should expect to get wet a little bit,
So FP1 was pretty much just rain and go out and do some sighting laps and come back in and say, oh, cool, we've got an entire weekend ahead of us now where we can't change a single thing. Do you think that affected McLaren at all?
It's a really good point. Well, at least it was a level playing field for all the teams, but it definitely a shortcoming of this sprint weekend format, which we've talked in length in the
So
past.
over it.
It's better than last year's, but certainly not good.
It's very track specific for me now. I'm over sprint weekends because there are certain tracks I'm fine seeing the same event happen on, like Austria. I think Austria is a perfect track for that. Even Hungary would be a spectacular track for that. Spa, I like Spa, Mike, because you just get one Q3 and that's it. You got to wait an entire year to see the cars going that flat out again on Spa. That's my biggest disappointment with the
And I
sprint
know,
weekend.
yeah, we had some excitement in the sprint with Oscar
Yeah,
leading
which was
some
dope.
laps, but which is awesome. But for me, it was kind of underwhelming with the start under the safety car. I think they had like 12 racing laps
Something
total.
like that. Yeah.
It was very sparse. So honestly, felt bad for the fans. And what's the whole point of us having wet tires if we're not going to use them?
I
I
don't know.
don't understand why we have to wait until it's interconditions. I mean, a thought I had was, is this the FIA trying to be extra careful around Spa due to the incidents we've had there in recent past with other series? Um, but tragedy aside, these are the best racing drivers in the world. They should be able to drive on slick conditions using wet tires, which is supposed to give them the grip to make it work. So I kind of had mixed feelings about it, but I did feel bad for the fans that they got such little running. You know, if we just would have had a normal weekend, they would have seen far more action on the track due to the conditions.
This weekend made me miss Charlie.
Yeah.
It would have been a completely different weekend had Charlie been alive and able to manage the race. First of all, I just cannot get over how good of a job that man has done with Formula One because in his absence, it's notable still. There's just a different air to when you're racing or when you're not racing. There's kind of a more of a tentative approach in the wake of Charlie's death. And second, I think that whatever happened, Mike, to what they kind of did in the sprint race of sending out the safety car first and foremost to get a good fuel for the track. And second, why not do 5 laps, 6 laps behind the safety car just to get you're concerned about overspray. You have the world's most expensive vacuum cleaners with tires that can project upwards of 70 liters of water per second per tire on them. I understand that the tragedies that have occurred at this specific track in these conditions are unimaginable, horrific, and we should be doing everything in our power to make sure that no one loses life in this sport in the name of entertainment. However, you're also going to know at some point during your time in career, you're going to have to race Spa in wet conditions. And you don't get to Formula One by not being, as you were saying, the best drivers in the world. It's one thing that I appreciate Martin Brundle in the commentator's box. We need his balance because he's right at that timeline in Formula One where safety was becoming even more and more paramount. I think we would have a different narrative if Jackie Stewart were in the commentator box. it would probably
Right.
be pouring buckets, and he'd be saying, "Why aren't they racing?" Martin's like, "Okay, we have wet tires. I understand it's dangerous, but you can do more than just need to see while driving." He talks about everybody knowing they're not going to step out of line. You're using your ears instead of your eyes, and it's a sketchy. I'm not saying it's not sketchy for these guys, but it seems to be like 4 laps of, oh my goodness, this is terrifying, and then the track is clear.
Yeah, rest in peace, Charlie Whiting. He was the gentleman that brought us. If we're starting under a safety car, everybody needs to be on wet tires due to teams abusing
Can I
the
tell you what
old
team it was?
rules. It
Can I
was Ferrari uh,
in like
going out on
2010?
inters. So
It was dumping
yeah,
out.
I just don't see the point of waiting until it's practically inters to just have everybody box the first lap.
The sun was coming out.
Yeah, I mean, cause all that mayhem in the pits with
And
20
another
cars all trying to get inters at the exact same time. You know, you bring up Charlie is a great point. Do we need to have a race director similar to Whiting?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
can
yeah.
we continue on with this collective body?
You need a point person in the world. If in any leadership role, that's my personal belief. It's got to be that one person's final say. It's a shame that that role has been tarnished by the events of Abu Dhabi with having a single person, but I think we can't lose trust and faith in an appointed official to make the call. And Charlie, he knew how to make the hard calls.
Yeah, I
And he
agree.
and he was extremely safe. If we think back to oh 2010 Malaysia, they had a red flag during the race because I think turn 7 or something, everybody kept going off. Jensen Button, one of them, I believe, to go off. But it's the Felipe baby, be cool when he's talking about his gloves getting wet. It's that race. I mean, he instantly, the second it was okay, it's way too much now, even before that, he was red flagging the race. So he was mindful, but he also let the guys race. So,
Yeah, I mean, bring back Malaysia, right?
yeah,
What a
yeah,
great racetrack.
it
Um,
is.
but yeah, we definitely had an interesting weekend with the mixed conditions going on, and it definitely caused a shakeup in the grid. Not so much with the guy who wins everything, but for the rest of the order, it was entertaining, not enthralling or a 10 out of 10 race, but it was all right.
There,
About what we
there,
expect.
there were events to talk about that happened. Like
Yes.
for regular quali, Checo got into Q3. He was what, P8? But hey, you know what? He did it.
Well,
Max
the bar is so high for our boy Checo.
Max went zero point 0.8 seconds. This is insane to me. He went
Yeah.
0.8 seconds faster than anybody else, correct? The lap
Yeah.
that Charles set, it was, oh no, I'm sorry. Checo got P2, I believe. I'm sorry. But anyways, I can't remember. This is the problem with sprint weekends. I get very confused with grid orders. Mike is doing a fact check right now.
Checo was third
He was
in
third.
qualifying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cheese and Pete's. So,
It
anyways,
was the sprint the sprint shootout, which Checo was eighth.
with Ace. Okay. So he got eighth at some point. But, anyways, Charles, when he set his lap, he was 1 second faster than Max, which means Max on that last lap went 1.8 seconds quicker than his previous lap. Okay.
He's just witnessing greatness, Ian. I don't know
We
what
are.
else to say. It's just he's on an entire another level. Sure, he is the fastest car by a mile, but he's slaughtering his teammate week in, week out. And I'm sure we'd all love to see a fight at the front, but
It's not going to happen.
it's not going to happen. So we might as well appreciate what is going on at the front with a racing driver in his prime form, peak of his career, dominating and coasting on his way to his third championship in a row.
It's pretty phenomenal. It's incredible to watch. What wasn't incredible to watch was seeing Daniel Ricciardo's lap time get deleted and him put down into P19. Okay, why?
Wah,
No.
wah.
Wah. Rookie mistake. Can he be considered a rookie? Can we call him a rookie?
Well, with Nick DeVries saying he wasn't a rookie, maybe Danny Rick can use that card since it wasn't used earlier on in the year by the other AlphaTauri driver. Danny
So,
Rick obviously is not a rookie.
but I think we can chalk this up to a rookie mistake. Fair enough.
Victim of the conditions. We'll call it that. Unlucky Danny Rick.
So it was Max, Charles, Checo, P123, but then Maxi Boy had a 5-place grid penalty for a transmission or some component of a vehicle, which popped him into P6. So then Charles, Checo, who the hell was third?
Lewis.
Hey, Lewis. Want to get? That's all I picked up from qualifying. Would you like to segue over into the sprint portion of the weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, McLaren not so fast in quali, but they, more or less made up for it in the sprint with Oscar's finish. But sprint shootout, we had Max, Piastri, Sainz, Leclerc, and Norris. So not totally off the mark for McLaren with their recent form. And Ferrari doing all right.
Mediocre,
still,
man.
Yeah, it's still not good enough for the Tifosi. It's not good enough for any Ferrari fan, but they did okay.
I have a issue with the name Sprint Shootout and how it means for qualifying. And Mike, this is where I think that an American could have been consulted on the name, specifically the shootout portion of it. And I'm taking this from Western films. If you were going to do a shootout at high noon, there wasn't going to be any other event after it. You were either going to win or you were going to get shot. So when I hear sprint shootout, I get confused that there's a sprint race. Just call it qualifying.
Wouldn't a shootout, would it be better to just have it be, one lap?
That's a shootout.
Opposed to 3 sessions? It's not really like
it's not a shootout at all.
A Western shootout, It's like, oh, you hit me good. I'm leading out. Let's line it up and do it again.
Oh, you nicked me. I'm still in it, though. Let's do it again.
I think the whole thing, obviously, with you and I still stumbling around with who's in what position for what qualifying session, it's still all too confusing and it muddies the waters with just exactly what the hell happened.
I'm so done with it, Mike. I can't. Yeah. I'm really looking to make these weekends exciting. And when I was watching the race, the sprint race, all I can remember thinking, one of the main things was, what is even the point? Why am I watching this? Yes, it's awesome. I get it. You get to see cars go in race mode for a portion.
10 laps.
Sick, dude. I'd rather just see it once and wait a year. It's
Right.
track specific for me at this point.
Yeah. No, I really think when you have so few laps, it's kind of difficult for it to, really much to happen in the race. It's again underwhelming when we kind of get a preview of what's going to happen on Sunday. Yeah, I mean, we obviously both have very mixed feelings
Yes.
about the whole thing. It's nice seeing the cars in race mode, but I would prefer a different format. Why can't we do reverse grid?
I
You know how
want reverse
fun it would
grids.
be
It would be
have Max
sick.
start 20th every race.
And then just
Like,
bomb through.
yeah, like that would be great. Who would be starting first? Danny Rick. He's on the fewest points, right? Uh
He's
well,
P21.
actually, has Sargent got a point yet?
In our hearts, he's gotten many points in our hearts, which I don't think reflect on the Formula One point scoring system. We'll talk to Stefano about it.
Yeah,
Steffi D.
give him a ring. I still think we should do reverse grid sprints.
I'm
I
totally
think it
for it.
would be great. Can the shootout? We don't need back to back qualifying sessions of practically the exact same thing. It's just not. Make everything different. Like, make the sprint not a preview of the race. Make sprint qualifying not the exact same thing as qualifying. It's just they're trying to make it more entertaining. Well, there's way more ways to make it much more entertaining than this.
Like, seeing the same thing over and over is pretty dope, though. You know?
Yeah,
So
Max
cool.
starting in first and finishing in first. I'll never get sick of that. That's what F1 has always been, right? Max starting in first and finishing in first.
Brought to you since 2021. Established 2022.
Yeah, but our boy Oscar killing it in the sprint.
Still don't. Oh, Otmar getting sacked. I completely forgot. And Fernando's birthday as well.
What the hell is going on with
An
Alpine?
Alpine and their 34, been with the company 34 years, technical director out too. It's got to be over the power unit. And they were talking about the power unit.
Yeah, everyone's jumping ship or getting fired.
I think Cyril did a fine job. He must have just got fired because of the Daniel Ricciardo issue.
I liked Cyril, man. He was a character.
Who's going to take his place? They're talking to Mattia, the old ex-Ferrari boss. I wouldn't do that personally. Nothing against the guy.
I think the what the press was saying is he would want a complete control of what's going on, and judging by recent history at Alpine, I don't really think that would be the case. But yeah, Alpine's a mess. Renault's a mess.
I thought Otmar was going to stay for the long. I really enjoyed Otmar. I think he's a great team principal.
Yeah, he did a great job with Force India Racing Point. He's class act, knows his stuff. I could understand Alpine's the higher ups of Alpine's point of view with McLaren made these giant steps. Why can't we do the same thing? But what McLaren has done is kind of unheard of.
It's an anomaly in the sport.
I don't think Alpine, the board, can really expect a significant jump like that I have a feeling that was a pretty big motivating factor with these decisions, and there isn't a correlation from what the board expect and what the racing team thinks is a realistic outcome over the next couple of years for the team. So I think it's imperative that both sides are on the same page and working together for a realistic common goal. And I think that was probably the biggest motivating decider factor in this whole thing. Alpine saying, we need to win races tomorrow. And the people running the team going, that's not going to happen.
You have a power unit that's 30 to 40 horsepower under everybody else.
Right.
So let's focus on this. And then we can, maybe they fired him because he lost Oscar and, the team suffering this year. I don't know.
That may have something to do with it as well. But I mean, what are you going to do? Fire Fernando Alonso?
No. You ain't going to do that, none. Oh my God, Mike, the McDonald's is starting to seep in.
It's marinating.
Yeah, no, it's pumping through my heart right now. We're fading.
We'll be there forever.
Oh God, it is. It's a part of me now. It's a part of me. The biggest talking point I think we could take away from the sprint race was the comings together of Mr. Lewis Hamilton, Sir Lewis Hamilton, and Mr. Checo Perez. I think that was a racing incident, Mike. I really don't know what either one of them could have done. What do you think happened? Yeah, okay. Dope.
I think very harsh. For
5 seconds?
Yeah, very harsh.
Sweet.
Now, how many places did he lose from that?
A bunch. He went to like P8, 9, just in the points, maybe.
His P7. I mean, he would have finished fourth.
Mm-hmm. Fourth or third.
Harsh. Very harsh. But we had Piastri second and Gasly third. So, Alpine can take a small consolation prize with everything they have going on.
A slight bow. Congratulations to them.
Yeah.
I'm still holding strong on Alpine, Mike. I love that team.
You are.
Yeah, I have to. I have to. I
bought the shirt. I
bought the shirt. I got a tattoo. I really.
How much is Zach Brown regretting that tattoo?
Hopefully a lot, but not enough. Maybe he just looks at it and giggles.
It went from being this is a celebration of winning a race to this was one of my worst decisions I ever made, signing this guy to drive my car.
He was supposed to be good, and he won one race, and then that was pretty much it.
Won one race where we told our faster driver not to pass him.
It's only faster for a couple laps. Like the final couple, but
yeah, we disagree.
That's the part I'm going to leave it.
We disagree there.
I'm not saying he wasn't faster, and I'm not saying he wasn't faster at a point in time. It was just at what point in time.
Yeah, when you're getting on the radio with
you got a couple laps,
more than a few laps left, saying, "Hey, you're the guy you're telling me I can't pass. You got to tell him to go faster, or else I'm going to get passed." That's never really a good sign.
And then a couple laps pass, and it was the finish. It just happened so quickly. A couple
being like 10 or 12. But...
yeah, but you square root those, and you're down to a couple 3.
Good old Monza.
Onto the segue. Do we segue into the race weekend? Segue.
Get on your bikes and ride to the race.
Opening lap. Classic classic Spa shit show.
Yep.
Racing incident. I call that a racing incident, Mike. Do you?
You know, Carlos was getting a lot of shtick from a lot of folk saying that he suddenly changed direction out of the braking zone after locking up. He shouldn't have done what he had done. Obviously, blasted Oscar for being a rookie. It was definitely a racing incident. I can't really see what either side, if they would have gone back to the same moment, would have done anything different.
Oscar was past the breaking point. Once you turn your wheel in, I don't think that, I mean, you can't trail brake in these cars if I'm not mistaken. So he was committed. And
Very
if he
much
would,
so.
I mean, we have to think he's also making a decision at 120 miles an hour. It doesn't look like that long of a straight, but it's long enough to get into the triple digits. And when you're past your breaking point, you've got a guy locking up and he sees room. And to understand what Carlos was saying, maybe a Kimi Räikkönen wouldn't have been down that far down the inside of turn one. But also, Carlos should have known that there's probably someone down on the inside of turn one because it's Spa, and that's what happens all the time. So, no, complete racing incident.
At first glance, you'd think
Carlos,
Carlos
what
should
the
have gave him
hell?
more room.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go watch the onboards, and it's like, oh man. In
Where would he
Carlos's
have gone?
perspective, I kind of understand where he's coming from. There wasn't much more room to give. It's kind of a hard turn to overtake on lap one to the inside there with three abreast.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't fault Oscar for doing what he did either.
Nope.
If you don't go for a gap, you're no longer a racing driver.
Very true.
Rest in peace, Ayrton Senna. And Oscar went for a gap. It quickly turned into half a gap. And we lost Oscar and soon Carlos shortly after. Why Ferrari decided to leave Carlos out there, I don't quite understand. Maybe they were hoping the hole would fix itself as they kept driving the car, but
all the other guys' tearaways will get stuck and tape themselves over the hole.
Ferrari
Aerodynamics, Mike.
strategy. This is Ferrari
Aerodynamics.
strategy.
Ferrari.
Uh,
On the opening lap, listeners and Mike, go back. Don't pay attention to what's going on up front. Look in the back, and you will see Valtteri Bottas, Reveiw, number 77 himself, taking that Alfa Romeo right across the grass for no particular reason at all. Very Danny 2019 Renault when he biffed his front wing. It was very reminiscent. He didn't yeet his front wing into a catch basin, but there's no explainable reason, and it's very funny. Also, because of the first lap shenanigans, remember how Hulkenberg, who had a score of bad luck all weekend, this was the worst weekend for Mr. Hulk all season long.
yeah.
Feel horrible for him. But everybody was getting backed up going up Eau Rouge because Oscar Piastri was limping along there. So at the top, when they're just going over Radion, you could see the group coming up the hill. There's a speed comparison of Hulkenberg going to that corner at 190 miles an hour like you can, and those guys must have been only doing 130. Dude, it's phenomenal to watch. So listeners and Mike, if you just want a fun laugh, check out Reveiw, and then speed comparison 10 seconds later. It's phenomenal.
You know your weekend's not going all that well when you got to go to the stewards and beg them to let you start the race because you didn't get a qualifying lap in.
Poor guy. Hydraulics issue.
Yeah, the hydraulics, so we didn't leave the pits issue.
You know who had a bad weekend overall, and I felt bad for them, just summarizing their whole weekend. And I had high hopes for them because they had been to this track before. And I don't know if you know this or not, but you do a little bit better on tracks that you know because you've been there before. Mr. Logan Sargent, dude, like the only driver to be going off on a consistent basis all
Yeah.
weekend. Logan, when did he finish though? He got up. He's 18, 19, something like that.
He finished ahead of Hulkenberg.
Oh, there we go. That's something.
You
That's
know,
He's 17. 2 DNFs ahead of him with Nico.
who started in the pits, if I recall right.
Yeah. He started in the pits.
Yeah, I think Williams was definitely hoping to do a lot better around Spa, but
I don't understand why their car, which looks very slippery, it must be the second sector that screwed them. That's the only thing. That's like the downforce section of the track.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we always talk about how a lot of these cars' performance is so track specific, but we more or less finished the race with how typical performance has been with these cars.
Mm-hmm.
Yuki in 10th in the AlphaTauri, I think, is a great finish.
He's on fire. He is on point, dude. Yuki is the benchmark. And I saw a little quote from Mr. Ted Kravitz about how move over Yuki Daniels, the leader of this team. That's the second time in one season we've said this, and if we're going by the scoreboard, I'll concede that he had a better weekend overall than Mr. Dan. If we're going to look at the facts, then the facts say that he had a better weekend overall, and he has been consistent with this vehicle. This isn't it's an anomaly in the fact that he's been able to do this so much. The consistency is the anomaly. If that's an oxymoron to ever be one, that would be it. That's why I think Yuki's doing such a MVP
And what's going to happen with that Red Bull seat? Things keep going like this. I mean,
Yuki.
Is it going to be Yuki instead of Danny Rick? Are they going to give him a shot? I don't know. We got the rest of the year to find out.
This weekend showed something that we've been seeing for quite some time in the team of Mercedes-Benz, and that would be the apparent change in performance from Mr. George Russell to Lewis Hamilton over the course of these last 3-4 races. It's becoming a consistent theme. What do you think is going on with George, Mike?
It's a really good question. Is it more of a case of Lewis is just driving phenomenally well? And he didn't do a great job last year. Can it just be as simple as that? Like, Lewis has a. I mean, if you ask Lewis, he'll still think he is the worst car on the grid. Which, yeah, I mean, Lando had some really funny comments in that around that conversation. Like, try driving 19th, 20th, thinking your car's bad. Like, that's all you ever hear him say. But is this just a case of Lewis last year? The Mercedes was all right. It wasn't terrible. And this year, the Mercedes is pretty good. So he's just putting in better performances. I mean, I don't think George has to really change too much of anything. I mean, he's had a few mistakes this year, but nothing too criminal. He's driving against a 7-time world champion. I mean, when Lewis was winning all those races and all those championships, he literally never made a mistake. People talk about now how Max, he never makes any mistakes. Lewis was the same exact way.
For
And Lewis is
year
a
after year after year.
yeah, Lewis is a phenomenal racing driver, and he has way more years in that car than George does, and in that team. So, if you look at all the scales adding up last year and this year, I think Lewis probably has a slight edge, but not by much. But this year, he's definitely been outperforming George, and I think it's again more of a case of Lewis actually driving to his potential this year versus last year than George really being in any kind of slump. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think is it Jeddah that's in Saudi Arabia?
Mm.
There is if you can, his onboard from his qualifying run, the smoothest you will ever watch a driver drive. And that is why I believe that he is driving phenomenally well this year. Mike, he's only 41 points. I just checked it out. 41 points from P2 in the championship. He's
Which
1 point away from Fernando.
he's going to pass Fernando.
Yeah.
That's
He's
not even close.
Lewis wants to win. He's going to also, because silly season, 5-1, he's never leaving Mercedes. I don't even read. Of course, they're having difficulty. It's the same story every year. Okay.
He'll
All right.
retire as a Mercedes driver.
Okay.
I mean, who's going to take him? Really? Why would Red Bull want to bring in anybody who could actually fight Max? If they
Who
were to
would be
bring in
able to
Danny
pay
Rick,
him?
Danny would be a happy number 2 just to drive in a Red Bull. Ferrari, who are they going to get rid of? I mean, they really want to bring in Hamilton. I don't know. I doubt it. Where else is he going to go? McLaren's got the best young lineup out there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Alpine's
he's going to retire at
struggling.
Mercedes.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd debate going to Alpine.
Haas is
Sorry.
open. Williams would take him with open arms.
Oh yeah.
Listen, we can give you 1/10 of your contract.
I don't know if they
what
want
do you
to
say?
Risk losing Sargent.
Mike, the amount of points he has in our hearts, you can't forget. You cannot forget.
Times it by 1,000, you get the same number.
Esteban Ocon, he had a pretty fun race at the end there. He was picking people out left and right for a couple laps. Got himself up into P8, I believe.
Yeah, FC had a decent race.
Proud of him. See, and that's that Alpine, even with 30 horsepower under, they're doing something. They're not moving anywhere. Aston Martin, though, brother, is it time to say we got to look at the next season? Because I heard on the weekend that Mike Crack let the media know it was an upgrade that led them down the wrong direction. Cough, cough, something ATO said. Throwing that one out there.
Yeah. Is it really? Is it really? Like, did you guys just not upgrade the car? And then you brought one upgrade and it wasn't exactly as fast as you thought it was going to be. I mean, we had talks at the beginning of the year. Is this the race that Fernando's going to win? Is this? No, it must be the next one that Fernando's going to get a race win. And there's no chance now. Absolutely no chance. Which is horrible. I really wanted to see Fernando win a race again, but I just have no confidence that Aston Martin can somehow improve their car to the point where it's even the second best car again.
Yikes. Talk about a backward slide. But that's the way it is in Formula One. Mike, that's the way the cookie crumbles in this sport. And I hope they're able to pick up the crumbs, get all the king's horses and all the king's men to put Humpty Dumpty back together again, because it was cool seeing him up there. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'd just be happy he was getting podiums again. I
Dope.
think this is probably where Fernando thought the team was going to be with at the beginning of the year before the first race. So
Yeah.
I'm sure he's not too bummed out. I'm sure he wasn't thrilled to retire on his birthday, but not retire from the sport, but have to retire the race after going off. But yeah, we'd all love to see Fernando win a race. I don't think it's going to be this year, unfortunately for him.
Crofty was giving him a little too much credit during the race. It was, I think, when Lewis overtook him or something he went through La Source, and then it was up after Radillon. And yeah, it was after La Source. Lewis overtook him at La Source, and he stayed by him, and he ended up getting DRS. And Crofty was like, "Oh, do you think Fernando, being Fernando, let him by so we could get the DRS and be just that much quicker and take it back?" And then Bruno was just like,
No.
"Nah, dude." Like he was slower. Like
Yeah,
there's
the car's just
nothing.
not that fast. But take out the Red Bulls from the championship. How crazy of a championship battle would we have had this year?
With McLaren coming in, can we talk about what
Yeah,
Lando
I mean,
Norris had to go through?
right. I mean, with Fernando and Lewis being 1 point apart, and the McLaren's coming up the ladder, Ferrari at times is
I'm
the best car. I
really,
mean, it would be an
really
amazing championship.
looking forward to seeing what McLaren can do, because to go from P17 to some slight rain and then somehow make up minutes, it seemed like, in the race to get into P7 and then hold position. There's something in that car that if they had the correct downforce, they would have been really right at the top. And
Yeah, I mean, they had a good
Mike,
setup for the sprint
yep,
with Oscar finishing second, but I'm still high. Obviously, in my predictions, I was very high on McLaren and did not score a lot of points. Because of that, I still think they have an extremely fast car, and we have some better races for McLaren once we get back from the summer break.
I've got nothing else for the race weekend.
Yeah, I think that about covers it, Ian.
So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to our part 1 of 3, which will then turn into a 4th part special. Thanks for hanging in with us, guys. We love you. We love talking about Formula One. And next time you're out on social media and you come across our page, drop us a DM. Let us know what we can be talking about. Let us know what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear. And we'll be doing that. We're here for you guys. We're here to build a community around the outside community. And it's just fun to be able to connect with y'all. Mike, that's all for me.
Love you guys. Thank you.